Hi, my name is David Booth. I'm with Coy's Vessel Services and welcome to our how-to video series. Hey guys, this is David with Coy's Vessel Services again. Still working on this Mariner 5 horsepower outboard by Yamaha. So what I'm going to do today is show you guys what happens is right here you have the water tube. So it's very common that these impellers go bad. So what I'm going to do here today is show you how to replace the impeller on this Mariner 5 horse. It's actually pretty easy to do. Doesn't take a whole lot of time, so I can show you guys how quick and easy a fix it is. What you do is you turn the motor over onto the side, and you see there's this little rubber cover here. You just reach under that cover, pop it out, and underneath there you have your shift linkage. So you're going to have to pull that shift linkage out. Just release one of the nuts on the shift linkage. I'm going to show you that here in just a second as soon as I get this plug out. Kind of work it until it comes free. Don't want it to cause any damage to anything. Let me just use a bigger screwdriver here. Don't want to hurt the motor, don't want to hurt myself. And there it goes. Pull this little rubber cap off. Then there are 3 10mm bolts on the bottom here. So you need to release these 3 10mm bolts. I usually start out by tightening just a touch before I start to loosen, just in case the bolts are seized or anything. When you start out by just touching and tightening, they usually can come out a little bit easier. So, don't know why that is, but it seems to work. So once you've got these 3 loosened, then you're going to adjust your shift linkage until you can see the nut, the bolt down here for the shift linkage clear. Go ahead and remove these 3 bolts from the lower unit. Two good sized ones and then a short one. What I'll do is I'll turn the motor so you can see it a little better. Right here in this hole, right there, reverse is where it actually comes apart there. So, and you just take your 10mm with a short extension. Probably don't even need an extension, but I like to use them. Just taking, crack that loose right there. Just motor back around. Work on a little bit better. Once that's loose, just kind of give this a wiggle. And it slides right on out. Your drive shaft, shifter, water pump, hose. So now you have the weight a little bit off in the engine, so let me just try to put the engine down here on the floor. Just that way we don't knock anything over and make anything worse than it needs to be. Alright, now we have your lower unit here, and your impeller housing is right here. So all you got to do the impeller is you got these 4 bolts right here. You just kind of loosen them up. Now this is something that is pretty much routine maintenance on these outboards, because I mean, especially if you use them in salt water, this particular engine is used frequently in salt water. So these pumps usually, or these impellers usually go bad about every other season, depending on how much you use them. So this one actually, I'm just doing this for demonstration purposes. This one was just recently done. So when I take this out, I'm going to show you that what it's supposed to look like. Now you've got these little metal brackets that hold on to the, they go underneath the bolts, so that way you don't crush or warp your impeller housing. Alright, so got the 4 bolts out, got the second piece of metal covering off. Then you just kind of give this thing a little bit of a wiggle, and then it breaks free, and slide it on up. You've got your impeller housing here, and your impeller just slides right down the shaft. Alright. Now there's a little pin on the impeller, on the drive shaft. Let me bring this a little closer to you. There's this little pin right here in the drive shaft that you want to make sure is there, because if it is missing, then you are not going to be able to pump water properly. Now, that can be very costly and actually end up costing you an engine. So it's very important to keep looking at that, make sure that the pin's there, make sure that you're pumping water good through the engine. Alright, here you can see this is all nice and smooth, nice smooth finish in here, and the impeller has all of its little tabs on it, so you know that this is all in good shape. Most commonly what happens is you'll see these impellers, the tabs will break off, and these are nice and rubbery, feel really good, and they'll actually go up inside of the housing. So you just need to get a little screwdriver or something. Just make sure you don't nick or scratch this finish inside, but just pull a little screwdriver up in there and get the little pieces of rubber out. They usually come out pretty easily. So let me go ahead and reinstall the impeller. Pretty simple to do. Just make sure that there's a little opening on one side of the impeller that's not on the other. That's the way it goes down the drive shaft. Put it down the drive shaft, make sure it locks in just like so. Take your impeller housing, back down the drive shaft, making sure that the water outlet is on the back side. What I like to do is I like to just give the drive shaft a little twist when I'm putting the impeller housing back on, so that way it sits the impeller properly inside. Okay. I just take the bolts, put them back in here. Make sure you put your metal bracket back on. You don't want to put this back together without that. That will cause undue wear and tear on your impeller. It's just a very common problem, very frequent routine maintenance that you should always keep an eye on, making sure that your engine is pouring a little bit of water out of the hole. As long as you got water coming out of there, you should be good to go. Pretty solid stream as well. Make this a little bit easier. I'm just going to go ahead and use my ratchet. Save a little bit of time. A little quicker than using the wrench. I'm also a firm believer in snugging everything up and then tightening it, because you do not want to over tighten many things. Now there's a couple of things when you're putting the lower unit back onto the engine that you need to keep an eye on. Make sure that when you put it in, you have your shift linkage through the shifter properly, you have your water tube hooked up properly, and you have your drive shaft installed properly. Just gonna grab the engine right now, bring it back over to the table here. Alright. So the way to do this, you just set the engine back on its side. What I'm going to have to do is kind of do it a little bit upside down because of the fact that I don't have anything else to hold it up. Alright, so on this side, the reason I like to do it like this as well is because I get to manipulate my shift linkage a little bit better as well. So, also actually, let me bring the camera around here just so you can see where everything is at in the inside. Alright, so going in here, you can see that right here is your water tube. Right here is your shift linkage. You can see it right there. And all the way down in the middle is where your drive shaft goes. See if I can get a little bit of an angle on that for you. Not so much. You can see it just slightly right down there is where your drive shaft goes. So I'm going to go ahead and make these back up together. Now sometimes the impeller does, the shift linkage does get a little bit more tricky, just because of the fact that now the retaining clip, if you will, is loose on both sides. So what you need to do, just be careful. I usually put my finger down in the tube here, and we got her coming in, got it on there, and now line up the water tube and drive shaft. Almost there. Water tube and drive shaft are lined up. Then you just kind of give it a little bit of a wiggle. Oh, got a little bit of a binding situation with the shift linkage. Not a huge deal. Just part of the beast. It does take a little bit of finagling to get right. Again, the same thing with anything with those is you just gotta have patience, take your time, do it slowly, and it'll go. Back in here, get my shift linkage back lined up, R2 back lined up. And the drive shaft, I just give it a little bit of a twist. Back and forth, and usually it'll just pop right back in. Okay. Usually. I'm also building this up here on the workbench. The drive shaft doesn't want to line up. So we're just going to figure out why. Come on now. Now I got the drive shaft lined up. Come back around. Got a little issue here with my shifter linkage. Now I got the shift linkage pulled through. Just want to make one more check, make sure the water line is in properly. And it is. You can do that just by feel. So what I'm going to do, slide the lower unit back up the rest of the way. Again, just by wiggling the prop a little bit, usually it'll get it to go. Now, I'm going to go ahead and put my retaining screws, lower unit screws back in. Again, 10mm hex nut. What you might want to do when you're tearing this apart is just kind of mark on the shifter shaft where exactly your shifter positioning was before you pulled it apart. I don't do that just because I've been doing this for a while. Now the only tricky part that's left on this is getting your shift linkage put back together. Once you see the shift linkage, you pretty much know how it works. And all I really need to do is get the bolt loosened up just a little bit more so it can slide over the shaft for the shifter. And the way I do that is just by using my screwdriver and try not to drop the hex off your screwdriver inside, because then you gotta pull the lower back off. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and remember, if you're in the Southeast Florida area and you'd like to get some work done on your boat, let us know. Give us a call. Remember, if you like the video as well, like us, and we will be happy to post more videos on more repairs. Thank you.